Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. My name's Stephanie and today I'm going to be showing you Cirque's new Curio Collection, which is a 6-piece assorted lineup inspired by these trinkets and charms, kind of with a vintage Christmas vibe. And I will also be going over the last couple of releases from their Treasure Trove holiday shop. So there is kind of a lot in this video. As always, I will have timestamps for everything in the description box. For now, let's just get into the swatches. The first polish we have is Ruby Slipper, and this one is just described as a deep red magnetic nail polish. So I personally don't think I would agree with the description being a deep red. I feel like this is pretty saturated in color where it's almost like a cherry red. When I hear deep red, I think of something a lot darker than this and more vampy. And like a lot of Cirque magnetics, this one definitely has a jelly finish, so you can see just how sheer and squishy it is. I did end up building this up in 3 coats, and I feel like I could still make out a little hint of nail line, but not so much, especially on my shorter nails. And you know, I'm not usually a big fan of Cirque's magnetics, and I kind of was giving it a hard time with the color, but I actually do like this color. I feel like it is a really bright option for the holiday season. And no surprise, it velvetizes beautifully. Next up we have South Sea Pearl, and this is described as a golden pearl-inspired champagne magnetic polish. At first glance, I didn't think I was going to love this one, but I really do like any kind of champagne golds, even though I know some of them, like this one especially, can lean a little too yellow, but there's something just so satisfying to me about this shade. I feel like it just adds to that trinket, vintage jewelry kind of look. Admittedly, I don't love this with the cat eye effect because you see that base color, but I think it looks really great just applied as is. And like the last shade, this one also velvetizes beautifully, even with the more pearly kind of finish. It is just super stunning. The next shade we have is Milk Glass, and this one is a custard-inspired off-white Crelly. Now, this might be an unpopular opinion since this is a slightly yellow-leaning, sheer kind of shade, but I really love this one. I mean, you know, I'm just a big fan of jellies in general, and I especially love any kind of neutral sheers, and I just thought this one was so beautiful and elegant. I did immediately think of a Boston cream filling with this color, which might be off-putting to some people, but I really love Boston cream, so I was just a fan of having the color on my nails. The Crelly formula was also super flawless. I feel like it adds to that glazed, sugary kind of look, but it also builds up really nicely too. The next polish we have is Trinket, and this is described as a pink shimmer polish with flash reflective glitter. And no surprise, this was one of my top favorites from this collection. I love a good sparkly pink, and I feel like this combines that base shimmer formula that I really love from Cirque with reflective glitters, which I also really love. The formula on this one was super smooth, not thick and gritty at all, though it will dry down a little bit gritty because of the reflective glitters, so you either want to do 2 coats of top coat or use a glitter grabber. But yeah, because this was a little bit on the jelly side, I feel like I got decent enough coverage on the second coat where a third coat isn't always going to be necessary, but it's just going to depend on your nail length and your preference, of course. I do like how the color builds up a little bit more on the third coat, but realistically, coverage-wise, I feel like I can get away with just 2. Then we have Precious Moment, which is a periwinkle blue to soft lilac thermal polish. So this periwinkle blue color that you see here is the cold state, and then it transitions to this soft lilac in the warm state. This one had a really smooth and very even coverage formula. It's self-leveled really beautifully. I think the color is so pretty too, but I feel like it was kind of on the subtle side, where even though I had just painted that first coat, it was kind of hard to notice the transition, and I was running pretty warm here too, so I was like, is this the warm state? Because I feel like it's not much different than what I just painted. So I had to, you know, compare the swatch to the bottle, and there definitely is a very obvious difference, but it still was a bit more subtle than I was expecting it to be. So of course, to further test this out, I had 2 bowls of water, one with hot water and then one with an ice cube in it, and dipping it into the hot water I feel like didn't really change the color that much more, but then going back into the colder ice water, you do see more of that punchy blue kind of color. So there is more contrast when you're going from different water temperature, but it's more subtle going off of body temperature. And rounding out the collection, we have Bonbon Jelly, and this one is described as a black cherry red jelly. And yes, I know this is definitely very familiar to a jelly we saw not that long ago. Don't worry, I will be doing comparisons. But yeah, it was kind of hard to not have that immediate oh no feeling at seeing this color, but at the same time trying it on, I feel like it definitely looked a lot more brown, maybe. Like, I know it's described as a black cherry, and I feel like it looks that way in the bottle as well, but on the nail, to me, I feel like it did lean a bit more brown than I was expecting, which was a lot more obvious on the first and second coat because it's a bit more sheer and my undertone is coming through, but the color deepens up a lot on 3 coats. And here is the Curio Collection worn as a skittle in natural lighting. I'm actually wearing 2 coats here because I kind of wanted to see how the coverage looked on my shorter nails. And I feel like for the majority of them, they are pretty full coverage with just 2 coats alone. So if you have very short nails with very little free edge like I do here, I would say half of them at least are solid 2 coaters, but I did also want to do a 3rd coat just to show you how that builds up. And I would say they look basically fully opaque, though there is definitely a bit of squishiness due to some of the finishes being a little bit more on the jelly side. But yeah, overall, color-wise, I thought these were really nice. Then for the Treasure Trove holiday shop, Cirque brought back AU, which is their real 23K gold flake topper. And I'm not sure what I can say about this topper. I mean, as much as I love like a little gold flake topper, this one being real gold is just really crazy, but also I feel like it doesn't look the best. And alongside AU, they introduced a new polish called AU Blanc, which is their white gold version. So as you can see, this comes with the wide brush and it provides a lot better application. And yeah, this is just a white gold version of the previous polish. So I kind of feel the same way about it, but I think I like this more. The next thing that they introduced were the Pearls of Wisdom charms, which kind of are a re-release. They previously had a little charm set of these half pearls, but they were white and black all mixed together, but this one is just white, which I think is a better option. These definitely do protrude a bit though. And alongside the charms, they released not 1, not 2, but 3 nail art sticker sheets, which it had been a while since they had released some stickers. So the first sheet that we have is the Tough Love sticker sheet that features rough and edgy designs according to them. I would say my favorites from this is that one row of the little broken hearts. I love that they have a little red metallic effect. I think those are really cool. The next sheet is called the Romance Me sheet, which features soft and coquette designs according to them. So lots of sparkles, butterflies, roses, very cutesy and demure designs, which I think are nice, but not my favorite, surprisingly. I think from this sheet, my favorites are the butterflies or the heart-shaped lock and keys. And the last sheet is called Molten Metal, which features their take on the quote-unquote 3D embryo gel nails with a modern metal twist. I don't know what that means, but this immediately reminded me of those little stickers that you would like stick on as earrings. So kind of cute, and I like the colors. And the last launch of their holiday shop this year was their Unscented Cuticle Oil, which I feel like was kind of an anticlimactic way to end this, especially since it had the most boring packaging. Their scented cuticle oils usually come in these really pretty gradient boxes, so I don't know, it just didn't really hit the same way. But as far as the actual cuticle oil goes, it's a nice cuticle oil. It's not my favorite, but it's definitely not a bad one either. I think I would say this does lean more on the lightweight side, even though I know it probably looks really greasy here. I just wasn't paying attention when I was twisting the oil initially, so I just had a lot. But anytime I do have extra oil, I just rub it down my fingers anyway, so it's super moisturizing and very lightweight. I feel like it absorbs pretty fast. So those are definitely some pros to this oil. I think the biggest con is just the price. So I would highly recommend waiting for this to be on sale, or just consider adding this in place of a polish if you're trying to get free shipping. Finally, getting into the comparisons, I actually have a couple for Ruby Slipper. The first one that I have is Perseus, which I feel like was recently retired. This is pretty much Cirque's previous solid red magnetic, and at first I thought it was going to be a dead-on dupe, but seeing them swatched on the nail, especially with the cat eye effect, you can see that Perseus is a bit of a deeper red and a little bit more berry leaning. I did also want to quickly show this next to ILNP's Sabrina from their Coven collection. That one is not a magnetic, but it's just a deep vampy red, but obviously a lot darker than Ruby Slipper. But of course, I do have to show this next to a couple of red magnetics, starting with ILNP's Poison. That one does look pretty similar, but it does have a deeper base color. And I also am showing this next to Mooncat's Your Heart's a Black Hole, which I feel like I would describe the same way, where it kind of looks similar in the bottle, probably from that initial red shimmer, but the actual base color is a lot deeper. I'm showing 2 coats of each here unmagnetized, and then a third coat with the cat eye effect on top, so you can really see just how dark ILNP and Mooncat are, and just how sheer Cirque is. There's a lot more visible nail line. And of course, I also have to show this next to Holo Taco's Sacrificial Lacquer, at least the swatch stick of it, because I recently destashed it. I would say these are definitely the closest when it comes to their color, but Holo Taco is a lot more opaque. Then for South Sea Pearl, I knew I had to see this next to Mother of Pearl, which was from their Atelier collection last fall. This is basically the same exact finish, but Mother of Pearl is a true like white ivory pearl shade, so it's definitely not a dupe. I thought color-wise it would be closer to something like Halo, but that is a lot darker with a totally different shimmer kind of particle. Since this is kind of a champagne gold color, I thought I could compare this to ILNP's Crystal, which isn't a magnetic, but it was described as a champagne gold, but that one's too nude. I actually think it's probably closer to ILNP's Cashmere, which again, I have the swatch stick because I destashed it. That one is a little bit lighter though. Next for Milk Glass, I of course have to show this next to Cirque's Linen, which is their white kind of jelly polish. It's not exactly a pure white, but you can see just how off-white Milk Glass is. And because it leans a little yellow, I thought it would be helpful to compare this next to Organza, which I thought leaned yellow, but I feel like it almost has this slight peachy undertone to it. So you can see on 2 coats each here, these are not dupes, and I thought I could try to recreate Milk Glass using both Organza and Linen. It's not quite there, but it's kind of close, I think. Then for Trinket, I wanted to quickly show this next to KBShimmer's Feeling Good, which is their pink reflective glitter, but as you can see, that one's a lot warmer toned, definitely not a dupe. So as far as the base color goes, I thought Trinket reminded me of Plush Suede, but that is a lot lighter, so definitely not near a dupe. I think the closest that I had to a similar base in Trinket was Porcelain Plum. That one's still a little too light and a little bit more purple leaning, but I feel like it's kind of close at the same time, at least when you see it on the nail. The main difference is that it is missing that silver reflective glitter, so I did do a layer of KBShimmer's Out of Sequins, and it basically mimicked the vibe, but again, the color is just a little off. Then for Precious Moment, I of course had to show this next to Bisou from the Encore collection. This thermal released only earlier this year, and I feel like mine is already starting to die a little bit. I feel like the cold state with the blue is just a lot lighter than I remember it being, but the warm state still looks pretty much the same as before. So either way, these do not compare. They are just different colors and transitions. But yeah, just your reminder to enjoy your thermals before they die. I did also want to compare the cold state of Precious Moment to Morningtide, which is one of their jellies and one of my favorite jellies. That one I would describe as like a cornflower blue, while Precious Moment is a little bit more periwinkle, but doing 2 coats of each here, I feel like they kind of look like dupes. And then for Bonbon Jelly, since it leans so brown, I wanted to compare it to a couple of Cirque's browns, including Mahogany Jelly and Cocoa Jelly, but as you can see, those are just way too light. But of course, the star of these comparisons is Bonbon Jelly next to Mxcn Cola Jelly from the Jarritos collection. I really thought these were gonna be dupes, basically, but as you can see, they are surprisingly not. This is 2 coats of each, and you can see just how much darker Bonbon Jelly is and how much more brown it leans, so I thought I might be able to recreate it using Mxcn Cola over Cocoa Jelly, since that was like a reddish brown leaning shade, but it just wasn't deep enough. And lastly, for Bonbon Jelly, I had to include Cracked Polish's Chinotto from their Italy collection a couple of months ago. I originally thought these were going to be dupes, but as you can see, Chinotto is a little bit lighter, and I'm showing these in 1, 2, and 3 coats so you can see the differences in their color, where I would say aside from Bonbon being darker, it definitely has more of this red undertone, while Chinotto on me at least is more of like a true brown with a little bit of red. And formula-wise, I would say that Cracked is a little bit thinner and sheerer, so not dupes. And then for AU, I wanted to show this next to Sunkissed, which is just kind of a typical gold metallic flaky topper. Obviously, it's a totally different particle size, so they don't compare at all. But as far as a dupe goes, I actually have this one from Clionadh called Golden Prairie that my bestie sent me, specifically to do this comparison, and they are pretty much identical. Clionadh does claim that this is also a real gold flake topper, but it retails for $22 compared to Cirque's $48. And lastly, for AU Blanc, I don't have anything to dupe it, but I did want to show it next to Silver Lining, which is their silver metallic flaky topper. Obviously, aside from the different kind of particle size, there is also a slight color difference here too. So again, definitely not dupes. So that wraps up my swatches and comparisons for Cirque's Curio Collection and their Treasure Trove holiday shop. As always, I can't wait to hear what you think of these releases because I definitely have some thoughts on them. Starting with their Curio Collection, I kind of hate to admit that I like this collection. I feel like it's just really pretty, really well done with the varied finishes and colors. And I say I hate to admit it because obviously I don't want this to just be a glowing review and, you know, excusing Cirque of previous grievances, but I feel like this collection is really like what they do best. Like when they make a good collection, I feel like this is what it looks like. Though to be fair, I know that this is also giving very much like 2.0 energy because like I mentioned in the comparisons portion, there were a lot of similar shades to ones that they retired recently. And I'm assuming those were retired to make room for these. So it's not exactly like a new collection, but I still like it for some reason. I feel like it does really nail that vintage Christmas charms and trinkets kind of vibe. But again, I totally get that these are very familiar, so you know, you might already have similar shades in your collection already. But if you don't, I feel like these are generally really nice polishes. Again, the only ones out of personal preference that I wouldn't recommend are probably the red magnetic and the thermal. Then when it comes to their Treasure Trove holiday shop, I thought it was so interesting that they went with this like weekly release schedule this year because in the years before they would just do this like bigger release because it was for their advent box. So to see them move away from the advent box, which, you know, I feel like they have done for several years beforehand, it's just kind of crazy, but at the same time I'm happy to see it because I feel like I've seen a lot of feedback the past couple of years that the advent boxes are just not it anymore. If you're not familiar with them, I do have one review on my channel from their advent box last year, but they basically would give maybe 8 mini polishes and then a couple of full-size products, whether they were base or top coats. I think last year they were 3 charms and a cuticle oil. So I had mixed feelings about that because it's like the mini polishes, while they're cute, they're just not really a great value. So I'm really happy to see that they have moved away from that because I feel like a lot of people have not been happy with it. I think they do this sale called We Mix Too Much like every year, maybe around the summer, and there's people who would get the advent box from the year before because it just did not sell out. So it's nice to see them finally do something different with that. But the holiday shop this year, I still have like mixed feelings about. I do have 2 review videos for the first 2 weekly releases that came out. The first one were these returning shades, and I generally liked them. Like, it was really just Coronation that I had the issue with coming back again because it's not really limited edition when it comes back 17 times in a year. But the other shades I was happy to see because I was just genuinely like asking for those to come back at some point. Then the second week were these like little gift sets, which I again generally thought were cute, like definitely a nice idea if you are planning on like gifting something to somebody. I thought they were well curated and, you know, they just make like a nice little bundle. I'm always a fan of curating collections or bundles, so that appealed to me. But then the last couple of releases I just wasn't that excited about. I think the very first one was AU and AU Blanc, which I was like, I am just not the target demographic for this. I could not imagine spending so much on like real gold leaf flake nail polish. I just don't care about, you know, luxury things like that. So that's only really gonna appeal to a certain niche group of people who are either Cirque collectors or people who care about like luxury items. So, you know, for those people, I'm sure this is like a very exciting thing that they brought these back. But for everybody else, I'm just like, I don't know if this was the best move. And even if it was like, you know, a more popular thing that like people were excited about these, I feel like they should have saved that for the last release because in my opinion, releasing AU Blanc, and then the following week, it's just these nail art stickers and these charms. And then the week after that is an unscented cuticle oil. It just seems like less and less exciting to me. So I don't know, maybe I'm just being a little too picky with like their release schedule because generally the products themselves are like nice. The stickers are cute and fun if you're in the market for those. I think the pearl charms are probably my favorite of those. And the unscented cuticle oil is like a great option to have for anybody who does not like scents or is sensitive to them. So I do understand them bringing these into their shop, but I don't know, it just seems a little almost anticlimactic to be like, oh, we're doing these like fun weekly releases, but the last one is just this like unscented cuticle oil in the most plain kind of packaging. So I really think that ending the weekly releases with AU and AU Blanc would be the better thing to do, but you know, it's obviously too late. Everything is in the shop now, so it is what it is. And yeah, I just generally feel a little all over the place regarding these releases. So I would love to know what you think. If you're interested in these though, as a reminder, I am an affiliate. So if you do want to shop these while supporting me and my channel, you can do so by shopping through my link in my description box down below. I do also have a discount code with Cirque that was one-time use, but they are going to be changing that. I just don't know if it's happened yet, so I will have that in the description box just in case. As always, a big thank you to all of you who do support me through that, but even if you plan on skipping these entirely, I do hope that you like the video, and again, just leave me any and all thoughts you have down below so we can chat about it. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!